next, the witty piece of Eve's flesh, John Colburn.
Matt is doing a great job. This year, one day in creative writing class, we were writing about ancestors, and the next day we were writing about monsters. And I found out that I was writing the same thing in those days. I have to apologize, I don't write short poems anymore. This is the shortest one I can find. The number of heaven and earth. They stole chickens and slaughtered cows, they castrated pigs, they cut the tails off piglets, they followed deer through the woods, shot them in their necks, they put out traps, they raised lambs, then slit their throats, they hung animals upside down in their barns, the blood drained out, their guts were baskets. They carried babies or carried bread downriver to grandmother's gut. In the fall they slaughtered and they boiled meat. They canned the meat and stored it in root cellars, in shelved rows, and other parts, even brains, they used for sausage. And they tied horses to iron equipment and whipped them, but the dogs just ran free. They put meat in a clearing and waited for a bear. All of this meat is how I am. My great-grandfather stole 3 chickens. He was put in jail. He got out, he had a stroke. Then he could only swear, only from half his face. His wife lost her mind, was committed, but when he died, she came out of it, lived for years, never stole chickens. They caught fish and slid steel knives into their bellies. They dreamt of animals. The animal terror went into their bodies, and they too lost their minds. Coyotes came to speak to them. They killed other people as they were told to. They kidnapped a Lakota woman. It was winter. There was so much snow and nothing to kill. They survived on potatoes and canned meat and canned pears so that I was born. And one day a rabbit bit the tip off my finger and chewed it up, so we killed the rabbit. Some of them lived with mules in Kentucky or horses in Massachusetts. Some of them turned their front yards into pig wallows in Iowa, and they kept slaughtering. They bought guns and sows. They killed who they were told to kill and made whiskey. They killed rabbits and raccoon and foxes. They poached and ran, or later drove their cars into ditches, and more of them went to jail. They wanted sex and families. They wanted to slaughter more animals, even a horse in the worst of times. They were ready in their root cellars, and they sang about food and animals. They played guitars by the stove or on porches, and more animals died and became songs, meat dripping everywhere, and I got here and began eating. This morning I saw a rabbit in the driveway. I saw its beautiful eye. It was feminine. It carried a baby. It carried bread. Its eye was a womb. I was given a heart-shaped basket made from dried plants, and I rode it down the river. I thought, who is riding in the basket? It feels like no one. The incinerator came on at dusk in the old yellow sky, and wolf children came out, their hair gone poisonous. The people grew tired of raising them and rubbing pollen on their bodies, grew tired of how years run together after dark. They kept their bodies warm to stay alive. They cut down trees and burned them to boil water. They shaved the sheep. They spun the wool, and children watched the looms fill. They had to keep warm, and some of them burned animal shit. Some burned oil from the ground, or oil from giant whales hauled onto boats and hacked to pieces. And the chimneys glowed hot, the lanterns glowed. Children slept near whatever could burn. The adults killed to stay warm, they killed to eat. They burned lost people passing through, and the children watched their faces melt. Someone check his teeth. Looks like the kind of person to squish in a machine, press the juice out of, or rip apart with horses, pour boiling water onto, shoot metal into, tell him to keep moving, or we'll set him afire. They wanted to stay warm. They wanted to make more children. The rivers flooded. They were alive, but winter came on. Night came too, and they wrote letters. Someone lit a candle. The church bell froze. A crow perched on the chimney meant someone would die. A white dog on the road at night was a spirit. A woodpecker at the window meant prosperity. A coyote in the yard meant bad luck and a hard winter. Souls inhabited the fires. Ancestors spoke from the mouths of fish. The cemetery glowed at night. An elk wandered up to the house to deliver its message. How fire keeps the busy spirits away. Sunlight in the pines, wild turkeys half mad along the road, long lines of eggs and mothers and sunlight in their feathers, each evidence of glowing sound, mind expansion, practice, dream, the squirrel alive and the hawk in its piece of sky, and they prayed for sanctuary. They dreamt of the number 12, and of 12 years turning this world through the levels of urge, and in their dreams, where celestial fruits fell into 12 tributaries, they prayed to be absorbed by the divine. But instead they woke up and drank whiskey and wanted to fight. They distilled moonshine in Kentucky. They took amphetamines and kept working, kept killing. The word was sacred, so they didn't speak. They built El Dorado. They built industrial parks on the graves of each other. They built flashbulbs and stark faces. They built orchards and winding roads, and shutters for the windows of homes they built or stole. They built a word for us. They called us the future, and they kept killing. They got to 12 and they started over. The future was both heaven and earth, the gods, the months, the stars, a spiral of 12, of fulfillment, an eating sound.
That's good.